Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Game Dev Podcast. Joining me once again will be my co-host, Eniko of Kitsune Games.
Hello.
And for this episode, our guest is Phil Royer, or Little Tin Man.
Hola.
How are you going? How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, doing good.
Glad it's finally spring. Birds are in the air. Fresh cut grass is making its appearance.
Yeah, oh man, it's been a weird time over here on the East Coast. But also, viewers, sorry for the lateness. I'd forgotten to eat lunch before doing the Checkpoint podcast, which was recorded just before this. So, so I kind of had to scarf down food in 10-15 minutes. No excuses. You, you asshole. Food? Who needs food? I'm a voice on the internet. I require no sustenance. Anyway,
Need voice.
the topic of this week's podcast, I believe, will be LD. Ludum Libide Dooley Boppa Thingy 48.
Let them dare.
Let 'em dare.
Let them dare.
So-
Aren't we gonna do the what are you working on thing first?
Oh, right. Well, I was gonna. Okay, yeah.
This is why I'm the co-host.
This is why I need the co-host. So what have you guys been working on? We'll start with the guests first.
Well, I've been working on Super Pixalo, which is a precision platformer headed to the Ouya May 20th, and then PC sometime in July, and then maybe even mobile in the fall. Been working on it since last August, mainly as my senior project for college. I had to document everything and turn that in. I've turned that in. Now I just have to finish the game. So I've been working on that. Almost done. Only about 20 levels left to design and a little bit of story to write, and then it's there.
Nice. I actually played a little bit of your regular Pixalo on stream the other day. Well, not the other day. A week or so back, I think it was during one of my morning streams, actually.
Oh, sweet.
That I confess I haven't had a chance to play Super Pixelo yet.
That's fine.
But I will get into it.
It's almost completely night and day different game. I mean, the story's changed. The character is the same. I mean, you play a little pixel who's basically you're just sort of going through a journey with him through time. In the original web game, it was I wanted to try to correlate electronical components, and so everything's like a resistors and capacitors and
Yeah, I like that aesthetic. But yeah.
It gets way better in Super Pixalo. The aesthetic completely changes. Instead, all the color palettes are based off of basically my interpretations of colors in those decades. You travel through six decades, and so all the colors and everything are kind of reminiscent of those periods of time, as either I remember them or if I've interpreted them from my studies of either technology or just pop culture. The game is really centered around pop culture and movies and music and even a little bit of games. I'm trying to just sort of, as much as possible, kind of bring them all together into something that I hope will make people want to go back to those things that they grew up with, or maybe they've forgotten about, because our society is such that we love to jump on the newest thing and then we just keep going and going and going. And I like going back to the old stuff and enjoying that stuff because I think it's better than most of the new stuff. Not all the new stuff, but most of the new stuff. And so especially with movies and stuff. Um, so I'm trying to bring players back to that kind of thing. I read Ready Player One by Ernest Cline last year, and I love the fact that you read this book and it's so pack jam full of 80s pop culture references that I'm like, I want to put this mechanic into a game. And then when I started working on Super Pixalo, sometime in Jan, I'd been working on it for a while, and I just had been working on it with kind of like loosely based around the idea a little more. And then I, in January, added all the collectibles and stuff, and as a mechanic, and that just like made it so much cooler. So,
All
So
right.
I have a bit of a question about that. So it's coming out for Ouya first.
yeah, it's coming out for Ouya first, mainly because uh, that's originally all it was going to come out for. But I ended up spending most of the time in the fall just getting it so it ran equally on all the systems. It's written in Java. I use a framework. It's not a game engine, but it's a framework called
Mm.
libgdx, and it's basically a bunch of classes and stuff that, or programming stuff that lets me integrate with the user interface and stuff on Android and on PC and on iOS, in the same way without having to write different code for all that. So that simplified that a lot. Um, I wanted to do the Ouya first because when the Ouya came out, I was just doing web games, and I've only been developing games for like a year and a half now. But I'd never dreamed that I would ever be able to make something on a console. So I was like, oh, this is the perfect. Even though the Ouya isn't it's not an Xbox, it's not a PlayStation. I mean, it's not trying to be either. It's trying to be something smaller, something more of a cult following type of thing, where it's just more of a hobbyist thing, and I love that about that. So I wanted to kind of um, jump on there. I also get a good amount of promotion from them for launch week. So that was also a big motivation. Is they put me up on the featured stuff. I'm launching on sale for 40% off. The full game will cost $5. So 40% off is like $3. The price of a cheap beer at a pub. Um, and Yeah, and so they're promoting it as like during launch week for that on their social medias, and then in the main store, and so that kind of opens a lot more doors than I would have otherwise.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty good.
so I'm experimenting with like, is that really feasible in the future for other games? This is the biggest game I've ever made by far, um, and it's probably bigger than any other games I'll make for the next couple years. It's 24 levels. It's got over 101 pixel art collectibles, or my version of pixel art. I'm not an artist. I'm a programmer, so I had to learn pixel art. I had to learn, color theory. Fortunately, I had two good friends, Chris Hoffman and David Somerville,
Mm-hmm.
give me good advice about colors. Both of them are professional designers, and they've helped me a lot with like design theory and things like that. So I've been this whole process has been a huge learning thing for me. Um, Eniko, I know you've been developing for a long time, or a lot longer than I have, for sure. And you have a couple big games like Mid Boss, which is way bigger than anything I could like wrap my mind around making. I don't I can't wrap my mind around just making like any kind of multiplayer anything really, and especially something where it's like you have a role and you're going through a journey and stuff like that. So I'm learning a ton. This whole experience has been a huge amount of learning. Anything from how to start a relationship with a console, like the Ouya team, who has been fantastic to work with, uh, and then working with just getting to know different streamers and stuff, more for the purpose of just seeing uh, how like Vin, how you and some of the other streamers, how you guys put games out there and like talk about games and what you guys, just hearing your opinions about what a good game is or a bad game is, or a game element that works and a game element that doesn't. That's been really helpful along the whole process too, because I wouldn't consider myself necessarily a hardcore gamer or anything like that. I didn't get my first console until last year, and that was a PS3. I now have like a ton of other stuff, including an original Game Boy, which I picked up off Craigslist a few months ago.
Ain't no shame in having an original Game Boy, man.
No shame at all. No, I'm so proud of that thing. I'm bringing it to the hospital when Callie gives birth. I'm gonna hand it to our son as soon as he pops out and go, "This is your first tool, son. Learn."
Nice. This is the world I hand to you.
Yeah, this is the world. Collect your Pokemon.
One day, all of this will be yours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. But father, the curtains.
But yeah, that's cool, dude.
I think it's fun that you have a. Sorry, I'm totally talking over you.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
I think it's amusing because I looked at Super Pixelo, and I also did a game where you play a pixel.
Oh yeah.
That nobody has played, I think.
Where is it?
It's on my site, but I did it for like one game a month, and I never like it's finished and it's playable, but it never quite turned into what I'd hoped.
Gotcha.
It's called Pixel Crash, so if you guys who are listening want to go play it, it's on my site. And I did exactly what you said you did at first by making everything transistors, and like the screen has this TV effect, and you're going through colors, and you have like a red and a blue and a green power bar and stuff. So I pretty much did what you were describing earlier.
Awesome. Yeah, the Super Pixela doesn't have any of the. I mean, there are some components in there, but they're hidden. They're like you would have to go through things pixel by pixel, which is the way I did all the art, everything, the UI, the game art. I have every single pixel I have put there by hand, mainly because
As it should be.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you basically, I don't know, how do I make this not sound super weird? You have a much stronger connection with what you put out there when you've basically done it on a pixel by pixel, scale where everything's small. My working resolution for the whole UI is 272 pixels by 153 pixels, and it's scaled up from there.
I think I understand what you're trying to say. It's you have a greater connection with something you basically build from scratch, right?
Yeah. Even to the level where you're editing things by the pixel. That's more of what I'm. Oh, your pixel crashes Windows. I gotta open up my Windows box and pop it on.
Yeah, it's Windows only. But yeah, I think what you mean is that you have like more control over the art.
Yeah.
Is something that I found a lot of even AAA developers don't seem to understand. It's like New Super Mario Brothers Wii, and it's like the old Mario was charming because you have that enormous control because every pixel you place is manual, and you can evoke detail that isn't there. And when it's 3D, you just kind of lose a little, I think.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's what I'm personally not planning on doing any 3D anytime soon, just because I haven't seen anyone be able to do it to the level of detail that I want to do in my games. In like the art style. And my art style is changing. My games are looking better, totally different than my little web stuff that I've done. And that's fine. I mean, that's
okay.
That's the way it's supposed to happen. But I'm still I just haven't seen any 3D stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, that looks really great.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of that for Project Drake. and you can do it, but it needs to be higher res on average, and it takes a lot of work to get the same kind of effect, and then it's still like 80-90% there.
Someone
but
asked,
3D has its place.
yeah. Someone asked, I heard Pi Gaming asked, oh, there you go.
Look, it's
Loading
my
up
game.
Pixel Crash. Yay! I heard Pi Gaming asked, since you are releasing on the Ouya first, what do you think of the news about Towerfall, the most popular game on the Ouya? It's actually not, but I'll get to that. Getting outsold by much more on PS4 and PC, despite the later launch. Keep in mind the user base for like PC and PS4 is in the hundreds of thousands. The user base for the Ouya is in the tens of thousands of consistent users. So it's a smaller niche audience. It's not to put it bluntly, it's not mainstream. It's not trying to be either. And I think a lot of people come to the Ouya or diss the Ouya because they think it was trying to be this big mainstream console, and so they don't understand, like, so they're like, oh, it didn't, it only sold like 10,000.
You're having a hard time, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah.
You chose poorly.
Very poorly.
Use the right mouse button, by the way.
Oh, is it? Right.
That uses your powers.
Ah, okay. But anyway, continue.
So basically, I think the biggest game right now is the Amazing Frog, which is kind of equivalent to the Goat Simulator, and since it's open world, you have these different challenges, but you just sort of walk around and do funky stuff. And not my style of game. I don't like playing those games so much. I like watching them. I don't like playing them. That's definitely the number one game, and I think it sold a lot more than Towerfall did. Towerfall did okay. I think it sold like 2,000 to 3,000 copies in the first year on the Ouya, which is, a year being now.
That's probably a lot, considering it's an Ouya game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a ton, and it sold way more. And it's like the Ouya isn't trying to be Xbox One. It's not trying to be Xbox 360. It's its own thing. It's a hobby toolkit. And you won't see Ouya. I don't think you'll see Ouya shut down anytime soon, because it's 30 people working on this game console, and releasing updates. Some of the best updates I've ever seen a console give.
Well, I think one of the problems with the Ouya is that because of the Kickstarter, which got so big, people had way too high expectations of what it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree.
There was a lot of basically trash talking for the Ouya when they released the first couple of models, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just endless, and it was like, oh, the Ouya is totally broken. Oh, hang on. The Ouya is totally broken, etc., etc. It's like, remember, guys, this console was just developed. It has no...
It was developed in like a year, too, which is insane.
Well, first of all, it had no, like, real substantial company backing, I want to say.
Yep.
Like, the developers didn't have as much of a history as, say, Sony or Microsoft or...
And keep in mind, Sony and Microsoft both have hundreds of thousands of employees.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know what ratio of like employees at the company work on those game consoles, but on the PlayStation and on Xbox. But granted, it's way more than the Ouya even has in their entire company. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, I Heart Gaming. I think that Towerfall was cool, but now there's so much more room for cooler and better games on the Ouya, and I hope to see so many more games get their start on the Ouya, like Towerfall did. That's an Ouya success story, a game that started there, and they were able to go on to something much bigger. And that's like when you talk to the Ouya staff, they're not like, here, you make the game for the Ouya and that's the end. No, they're like, okay, so launching on the Ouya, maybe, hopefully your long-term goal is to like launch on a bigger system. Like, this is the starting point. This isn't by any means the end. and I really appreciate that when talking to them, because they're going to help you kind of make sure that you're able to, as much as they can and as much as anyone can. Really, it's up to you, but really kind of gearing you up to either while your game is on the Ouya, improving it, or gearing it up so it's a perfect launching place into somewhere like PlayStation or even PC, or because there's a lot of games for PC, and it's quite a cluttered marketplace.
Would you say PC is cluttered, or just the sheer amount of, like, say, versus PC versus mobile market?
Oh yeah. Well, mobile is there's no comparison to mobile's just like a
Mobile
cloud
is
of.
beyond saving.
It's yeah. If you are able to spend a couple million in getting people to play your game on mobile, you might have a chance, and that's why we see games like what's the 2048, and actually I don't know, that might have been one of those small grassroots type of things. What was the Candy Crush? That's why you see like games like Candy Crush that are like big companies behind them, and that's why they're doing well, is because they're spending so much money on marketing and stuff that people get the impression, because I mean, let's face it, we're affected by ads wherever we see them, and if you advertise enough, I guess, then people will start recognizing your brand or game more and more, because you've kind of, I don't know, shotgunned your brand at them. Does that make sense?
It's not even just advertising, it's just any form of publicity. I mean, everyone knows King's Games and freaking Candy Crush Saga because of just all the crap that goes around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then now they're in the legal stuff, and that's the scary stuff, is when like one of those companies go like crazy, and then there's some scandal about, oh, that game was somebody else's, and
So iArtPie is a very interesting question. Why Ouya instead of PC? Because you would have a bigger potential audience here. Like, why would you start on the Ouya versus PC?
Yeah, it looks like iHeart. Yeah, iHeart. One, it's a way to get it kind of introduced to a smaller, I think more focused group of gamers. And I say that because I see the other a lot of the developers and a lot of the people who have an Ouya and play an Ouya consistently are game developers themselves. So I can expose the game to a smaller amount of people who can kind of play the game as a game, and it can kind of get that feedback and improve over like a month or 2 months. And then after it's kind of improved the level where people are like, oh, this feels really good. This is what we're really happy with the $5 we spent on the game. Mm-hmm. Then I can move it into, the PC world. Also, PC it's not easier to develop on the PC because the Ouya is so easy to develop for. It's Android. It's insanely easy to develop for Android stuff. And you don't have to, like, there's a lot of, like, what would be an example? Full screen versus windowed. You don't have to worry about that on Android because it's automatically full screen. Scaling is way easier. On the Ouya, you only have one resolution. I, of course, programmed it so it could scale and stuff. Part of the reason I did all the graphics at such a small resolution so that it would scale up properly. On any resolution. I think you can even play the game on like 256 height and whatever. I don't know. Really tiny. It runs really tiny, and yeah, to me it just made sense. And it's not like I would recommend. I don't know if I'd recommend others to do that too if they're looking to start doing games. If you're more comfortable with PC, do PC. If you're more comfortable with web, do web. If you're more comfortable with iOS, do iOS. That's completely up to you. And to me, this seemed like just an open door, and I jumped on it.
I might actually do a port of Mid-Boss to Ouya eventually.
There's not a lot of MMOs on there. It would. I think it might do really well.
Mid Boss isn't actually an MMO.
My bad.
This I don't.
Nope. Nope.
Nope.
How would you describe it? I use MMO loosely.
It's not a multiplayer game at all. Actually.
Really? Oh, okay, I thought it was.
Must be thinking of the wrong game then.
Well, I'm looking at Mid Boss here, so it's RPG for sure.
It's a rogue like with a K.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we did this whole segment on last podcast defining rogue light, Lite, versus rogue like, Like. But yeah, it's turn based, hardcore survival, that whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle. It's an actual
procedural death labyrinth.
Yeah.
Basically.
Emphasis on the death labyrinth.
Awesome. Well, my bad.
But yeah, monogame. Well, actually, I'm not sure because monogame is kind of giving me some issues. I have this OpenGL error on some Windows systems, and I'm not sure if the new version fixes it. So I actually might switch to monogame SDL2, which is a different fork by someone else who got tired of monogame being, kind of shit. And if I use that, I don't know if I can actually put it on Ouya. But, I'll see.
That would be amazing. I'll test it. I'll help test it.
I might maintain both. I don't know. We'll see.
You know what? I think Towerfall was in monogame, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but ideally, I want to. That's why I'm using monogame in Windows, because actually the monogame stance on using monogame in Windows is why would you use monogame when you have XNA? Except XNA is like a separate dependency, its own installer on the client system, so that's kind of near. And I just wanted to have one code base, and not one code base for XNA on Windows and one code base for monogame on Linux and Mac.
Gotcha.
So I made it all work on Windows, except this one thing that I can't fix.
So for people who don't know, like me, what is monogame?
Monogame is, do you know what XNA is?
No.
Okay.
Is it an engine, or what is it?
It's
framework.
Framework, yeah, like Phil mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I used libgdx. I mean, they're kind of similar in the ideas. They just basically go about things a little differently.
Yeah, it's an engine is actually like a game that doesn't have features yet. So it has like all the features sitting there in modules, and you can put them all together, and then you get a game. A framework is more like, okay, you can make sound, you can draw something on the screen, and you can get input, and all the rest is up to you.
Yeah, that's it. It's very minimalistic.
Yeah,
which I like
is what
personally.
I like.
Yeah,
I mean,
we both like it.
But basically, whenever you use an engine, you're limited by. Hang on. You're limited by the features of that engine. So if the engine says you can't do this, then you're kind of up shit creek without a paddle. A framework is a lot more general, so that's why I tend to prefer it. So it doesn't limit me.
Mm-hmm.
Except when a framework has some kind of bug in it, then it still becomes kind of an issue. So some people who want to play Mid-Boss right now on Windows just can't because their OpenGL drivers are kind of bad.
Are you using OpenGL 1 or 2?
I think monogame uses 3, so it needs ARB extensions, and it doesn't have a fallback for ext extensions, so it just doesn't work on some systems. Yeah. Also, nobody needs to understand what I just said. Yeah. I don't even understand what I just said. I just know it's a thing.
You sounded really smart.
I know, right?
You both have lost me completely.
It's just a thing like OpenGL drivers, quote unquote drivers. The problem with calling them drivers is that you think like your NVIDIA drivers. If you have a problem with your with a game on your NVIDIA card, you update your drivers, but you can't actually usually update your OpenGL drivers, I think. It's just kind of an interface, and some systems they just have an old implementation that doesn't work with the implementation monogame uses. There's just nothing I can do about it. Really frustrating.
Okay.
This is like the most technologically oriented game dev podcast we've ever had.
Yep. I was just about to ask you, like, go into the history of Ludum Dare or something like that, and it's like, oh, I need my
Nobody's gonna care.
I need my my dictionary here.
I haven't even gotten into what I've been doing lately.
Please do.
Oh yeah, what have you been doing
That's a
lately?
nice segue, isn't it? That may have been intentional. Well, Ludum Dare. So I did that last weekend, and I did the keynote, which was viewed 5,500 times, and I didn't get a haircut. So that was a thing that happened. That was actually a lot of fun, and it was very well received, which made me very happy. And then I made a game called CGA. It's based on the old CGA palettes, like the eye-searing cyan and magenta palettes.
Oh yeah.
It had like 3 basic modes, so I used the colors for those, and it's a dungeon diving card-based game called Color Graphics Adventure, which spells CGA because I'm so clever. And you help. The story was gonna be, the story isn't in there because I didn't have time. The story was gonna be that like EGA Sama, the evil one, has done something evil, and CGA
That's very specific.
needs to go into the dungeon and save the world. And it is basically an auto, how do you say, an auto fighting game where you play cards to either change your color, which works in a rock, paper, scissors kind of way against the enemy, or you play card attacks for a little bit of extra damage, or you get some monochrome cards to get upgrades to your stats, and people like it, so that was a success. Yay!
Yay.
So, what was the like how does Ludum Dare work? Question mark.
Okay, so Ludum Dare. Oh, look, it's my game! Yay! Ludum Dare. There's 2 parts of it. It's one weekend, but there's the compo and the jam. The compo has rules where you need to have your source publicly available. You have to do everything solo. What was the other rules? You have to make everything from scratch, except using a Unity engine or a game framework. And that's basically the compo rules. So that's 48 hours. And that's a different category of the competition from the jam, which is 72 hours. You don't need to make your source available, and you can work in teams. And before the Ludum Dare, there's always a theme selection round. So first you get the theme slaughter, which is where you can basically say, I like this theme or I don't like it. That picks the top, something themes. And then you get 4 voting rounds, and the first 3 are where you can +1, -1, or 0 a theme. And then the final round is all the best themes. And then you get 1 theme, and you don't know what the theme is until the competition starts. And then you got to make a game around it. And the theme this time was beneath the surface, and I was like, well, a dungeon's beneath the surface, and kind of went on my way.
I actually saw you live streaming the development. So what's your opinion on live streaming the development?
I did that for a day and a half, and then I got a blue screen, and I was like, nope, not gonna live stream anymore. It was, I don't know, it was like most of the time there were just a couple people and they were barely watching, so I don't think it's very useful. I don't think it's something I'm gonna do again, honestly.
Okay, all right.
I think it's different when you're like developing a game that has a following, like Black Ice or Mid Boss. You know, if you're doing that, like Garrett has a lot of success with his live streaming development. But I think that's very different from when you're doing a game jam. Because people will come back to the same thing time and again. So it's not really yeah, I wouldn't do it again. I don't think I quite enjoyed it. I didn't have enough interaction with the audience, so I was like, yeah, you know, nobody's watching, nobody's interacting. So what's kind of the point?
Okay. Well, then again, that's just streaming in general.
Is it?
To be honest with you, it really is.
I don't know, when I'm on streams, I'm actually paying attention most of the time and interacting.
Oh no! As in like, as a streamer, it's either hit or miss, really. Sometimes you get streaming. It's not like, it's basically like playing to an open cafe or something like that. Like sometimes you get people who will interact, or sometimes you'll get people who will just, you know, hang around and, you know, sip their coffee or something.
It's like karaoke, but for gaming.
Pretty much, actually. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
Well, that's kind of my point, though, because I was streaming for like 16 hours a day, and after the first 15 minutes, people got bored and left. So I don't think streaming development for that long is very useful. Also, I think if you do it in shorter periods, you'd get more out of it.
Also, it's kind of hard to do the game dev streams. I know Eric's done one, and then I've seen a few other streams, and it's hard to hold, especially when you have to do any kind of programming or whatever. It's hard to hold on an audience's attention, because it's like
you can't hold a conversation and do good code.
Yeah, you very quickly get into technical jargon, or, you know, start talking through your code, and people are like, I didn't want to learn programming.
Know what's going on here? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. It might also just not be my thing. I mean, I have done the YouTube thing before, and I much prefer that. But even then, I haven't done YouTube of development. I've done like feature run-throughs of my games, or I've played other games, and I think that's just a lot more fun, personally.
Okay. One question, like, I was actually just talking with someone about this the other day. For LD, is it really just sort of something to get your creative juices flowing, or is there like some promotion behind it, or is it just a community run thing, like, hey, let's just see what we can do? Like,
it's definitely a community run thing. There's a very big community, and you tend to see the same faces coming back. There is, if like, I mentioned this in my keynote, actually, because I was talking about how Ludum Dare can change your life. And I mentioned that No Way Out got like a 2nd place position and a 4th place position in 2 categories. And you think that would, you know, be really good promotion. But it's not. because the only Ludum Dare games that any of the big sites pay any attention to is the winner in the compo and the winner in jam. And if you're very, very lucky, the number 1 overall, number 2 overall, and number 3 overall. So unless you like completely win Ludum Dare, which is highly unlikely because there's thousands upon thousands of games, then there's just not much that happens for you basically. So it's really mostly about just sitting down and getting a game out and having a good time.
Okay, all right. Phil, have you ever? Do you have any intention of trying out a Ludum Dare?
Absolutely. That's on my things I want to do before I get, to 30. I want to do a game jam. I really want to do. I know they're the worldwide, the global game jam or whatever. A lot of the colleges here in Maryland have like places for people to come and just for like 2 or 3 days and do those. And I really want to do one because that seems like a really fun idea. Just in a small amount of time, get an idea going. Not a finish an idea necessarily, but get an idea going. And I want to do that at some point. I don't know when, but some point.
How many? I'm sorry. How many game jams are there right now? Because I'm seeing like Gender Jam. I'm seeing.
They say there's more game jams out there now than there are developers, which is probably accurate.
I believe that.
It's like every time I take a look at Twitter, it's like Fruit Jam, Candy Jam. Gender Jam.
I liked Flappy Jam. I actually played a bunch of games from Flappy Jam.
Jam, yeah.
That's been one of my most one of the funnest because I love simple gameplay, and when game developers take the time to like, and you really do have to take extra time to make a game fun and simple. But it's so cool to see like all the little games, all the little Flappy using the Flappy style, and creating all these really cool ideas.
Game jams are also a coping mechanism for the indie game dev community, I think.
That's true.
So whenever anything adverse happens, they just do a jam. And
the game jam.
Right.
Yeah, there's also this culture that I've noticed more and more is focused on completing small games, which is good for some people. It's also in like 1 game a month and stuff. And a lot of people have taken that to an extreme and they just do a lot of really short games. And they do it for fun, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But there's like 1 hour game jams, 3 hour game jams, all that kind of stuff. And personally, it's not for me. I just like do the bigger ones every now and again.
Every now and again, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is nice though to do one of those small games every once in a while, just to get if not to get the juices going.
It gets you out of your own head.
Exactly.
And your own program.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
Especially
so that's why I was very happy with Ludum Dare, because I was, after you work on a game as much as I have worked on Mid-Boss, for instance, to get it ready for release, I was like, you just want to do something else. And so I got to do something else, and that was great.
I'm looking forward to my next game for sure. I'm getting a little. I'm not tired of working on a little guy named Pixalo. I still really like the story. I still really like the whole idea.
Oh, you can be honest here.
No, I really do. I do. I really like I like the game. Like, I love how it's turning out, and I love how it keeps evolving. And I'm really glad that I've let it evolve. So that's been a fun thing. But I'm gonna be so glad when this thing I can click publish on the Ouya store, and then for like a week not do Super Pixalo and move on to like I have 2 games. 3 games in my queue that are all I'll do alone type things, and then probably at least one of those will come out this fall, or winter, or whenever I decide. I'm actually don't even know if I'm going to do this. Set a date and then try to launch by that again, because as nice as that is to keep you going, it kind of it's a little bit stressful, more stressful than I'd like to, because this is a hobby. This isn't what I do for a job, so I have the luxury of being able to finish a game when I want to finish the game, and in this case, it was helpful to have like, oh, I'm going to finish it here. But I think now I'm used enough to working on a long-term project with the game dev stuff that I can work on like a 3-month game, which my next game will probably take about 3 months, because it's already all on paper. And then from there I can just, go however long. If it takes 4 months, great. It takes 5 months, great. Hopefully it won't take me like I know Mugenics, the guys who made Super Meat Boy, were like, oh, Mugenics is gonna be, it seemed like it was gonna be a smaller thing. They were gonna make it in a year, and it's been how many years now? Like 3? I think they've been working on that game, and they still don't have a release date. That's a little bit too long, but hey, those guys can do what they want. To each their own.
Okay.
What do you think, Eniko?
Well, it depends on what you're doing, basically. Some people spend longer working on games, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, a lot of people I see who do spend a long time on games, they tend to be doing like the full indie thing. So they actually they're very invested. So they need this to be a success, and I'm gonna go that way soon myself. So I can kind of understand. It's the same with mid boss. There's just a totally different time scale, even for simpler projects. Whether you're thinking about selling it to actually live on, or as you do because you like working on games.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mid Boss is not a very complicated game. Well,
it looks complicated.
It in essence, it's just move your sprite around on a tile map and hit things and then become things and level up and learn abilities, which doesn't sound like it would take very long. And the prototype that I did was for London Dare, and that only took like 3 days.
Yeah.
But by the same token, I've been working on the new version with all the UI and everything for like a year now. So
it's weird how long UI takes.
Yeah, UI is the worst thing ever, and there's no good UI libraries.
Oh no, all the UI libraries are really bad.
They're all really bad.
Why is that?
I don't know, actually.
Well, I know. It's because it's one of the last things people think of when they're making a game, because it's you want to focus on good gameplay. Yeah, I totally agree. It's I think in the top 3 of
the gameplay
most
is UI.
Things. Yeah, and especially like I work for a company that does UX research, and I'm one of the developers, and so I work directly with the UI team and the designers and stuff. So I'm always absorbing UI knowledge, and so that was one of my big goals for Super Pixalo, was to make the UI as simple as possible, so that someone can just jump into the game and it not be like where you have to figure out, like, spend an hour getting familiar with things. And it helped that Super Pixel was a very simple type of game. It's a little platformer, so there's not a whole lot of extra flair and stuff. But yeah, like I got Battlefield 4 went on sale. I'm a fan of the Battlefield games. Mm-hmm. I loved Battlefield 3. Battlefield 4 is, don't waste your money. They tried to make it like Call of Duty, and so it looks like Call of Duty, but it feels like they're still at the same time trying to be Battlefield. And then their user interface was designed for a mouse, and the whoever mapped it to a controller must have spent like a day mapping it to the controller because it felt so unintuitive. Like it just didn't make sense, and it was so confusing. And I've spent a couple hours playing it now, and I can never remember what buttons to press because it isn't what I feel like it should be, if that makes sense. It doesn't feel right, and that's really important for a UI to feel right.
Yeah.
Now, quick question. For an up-and-coming developer, what resource libraries would you recommend if a good UI library is non-existent? What would you recommend then? Like, what kind of resources are there?
I just roll my own.
Yeah, roll
Which
your
is
own.
not a very good thing to do because I've put so much time in Midboss's UI library.
Prepare to spend like a good month on a couple month project. Prepare to spend 2 weeks to a month on UI.
Jesus Christ!
I've
And
spent
also make
about
it
3 months
reusable.
on UI. Yeah, make it reusable.
That's my framework for UI in Midboss. It like doubled in size, but before that, like in Pixel Crash, I made the options menu and some other stuff that I made in Project Drake before that. And if I just had to do the entire library in one sitting, it would have taken me 3-4 months.
Yeah. As I agree with iHeartPie. Bad UI, it's a big turnoff. Like it.
Yeah.
Are
Pie,
we talking graphical user interface or just user interface? Because you could make a point that user interface is like the way the game plays too.
Yeah, I was just about to ask Pie to drop some examples of games that he has or has not covered that just have really bad UI, so that we can have a comparison.
But yeah, the
GT4
weird
had
thing.
horrible UI. Well, it had horrible UX. It took me about a half hour to figure out how to play the game. Like, literally get to the part where you start racing your car.
Oh, which game is this?
It was GT4 or GT5. What is it? GT5, not the one that just came out. The one before that. There wasn't like in the menu, like it booted up, and there was nothing that was like go race or like play or anything. And there's all these things like, settings, user settings, login, all this. And it's like I don't understand where I'm supposed to go. And it turned out there was like a button that said like region. And it was that button that led you to like setting up wherever you were going to go race your car. And that just didn't make sense because it's like I played other racing games and this racing game doesn't want me to play it.
Yeah, you need to know what the standard controls are. But I can tell you're coming at this from like a usability standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very much coming at this from like widgets. Like,
Gotcha.
You have no idea how hard it is to have like something as basic as a text box
Mm-hmm.
in a UI library that actually works properly.
On more than one system.
And if you want to copy paste, well, it's just not going to happen. If you want scrolling with the cursor, not going to happen. If you want multi-line text boxes, which can center or be left or right or button or top aligned, it's just not going to happen. You just have to do all that yourself, and that really bothers me because there is nothing I hate worse than doing graphical user interface programming. And I've had to do so much of it now that I actually did a TypeScript UI framework for CGA in like a couple hours.
Someone
That's how
needs to
good I
come
am
out
at it
with
now.
like the bootstrap of game UI, so at least people's stuff like is usable. Like there are a lot of games in the Ouya, a lot of the alpha and beta games in the Ouya, and there are hundreds of them. There's an entire section just for alpha and beta games, which I kind of personally have a problem with because most of them just get deserted. Like the developer's like, all right, it's on there, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like cleanup that needs to be done, and I don't think they have a process yet for cleaning up games that are just like half-made, half-assed games that don't run or work well, or like they never did, but they were, promoted as alpha or beta, and so they somehow were let to go play. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. There's some review processes that I don't understand at all. But that's the way they do it. So, but yeah, there's so many of those that you just can't figure out how to play the game because there's nothing that says start, play, go here, go there. The language isn't there. The buttons aren't there. You just end up seeing this
because it's so much work to make all those widgets. I mean,
yeah, it is.
Even when you have the widgets like sitting there ready to do everything, you still need to place them on the screen and make them resolution independent. And, when half of the widgets that you need to communicate something just don't exist, it just gets really hard. So if there's bad graphical user interface in a game, I usually don't blame the developer. If it's an indie, because they probably just didn't have the resources to make it good.
That's true. I guess I should be nicer.
Well, I mean, I did it myself for Mid-Boss, and I like to think that Mid-Boss has a pretty self-explanatory user interface with all the blinky buttons and tutorial windows that have like a read more button for the people who actually aren't like too long, didn't read, and all that kind of stuff. But most people, you're right, don't put enough effort into that because it's not fun.
No, not at all.
So Hacksaw Unit brought up an interesting point. Hacksaw says, I kind of like designing UI. I usually try to build my game around it so it's not as painful. So what do you guys think about building a game around UI instead of like a concept?
Well, it depends. Are you talking about designing it or actually building? Because designing it is one thing. Designing can be fun with it, designing a UI. In fact, it can be a ton of fun. But actually implementing it is the hard part. And I think that's what Eniko is getting at, is that you have all these little things that you can make in theory on a mock-up look good, but then trying to get them to work the way they're supposed to that's where you pull your hair out and then want to give up on programming.
Yeah, that's basically what I mean. It's because most people, like I've been programming for 15 years. I can make my own GUI library. I can do that. But most people can't. I mean, they could, but they'd spend like months and months on it, and it's just not feasible. And then you try to use built-in UI frameworks for engines or like a library, and stuff just doesn't work right, and it's half implemented, and it's just generally terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then it really becomes horrible to do because, it's just so hard. It's just hard. This is one of the hardest things in games, and I don't understand why there's no proper standard library thing.
I know.
Well, I know why
every game has to have a UI.
But every game has a different framework for how they draw things on screen, so it's really hard to do a UI library that's standalone, because then you need to support renderers for like XNA, Monogame, Unity, SDL, OpenGL, DirectX, LibGX, LibDX, etc., etc. So I know that's why it doesn't exist, but it's terrible that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Because if you tell an enterprise software developer, like, I need a form with a text box on it and a list of things and a drop-down combo box, then they'll be like, okay, I'll just make that for you, because there's a toolkit with all the standard stuff in there. And they think you were insane if you said, well, that doesn't exist, you have to make that yourself. They'd be like, well, no.
Or in websites you commonly get, well, I've seen this website do this. Can't you just press the slidey scroller, accordion thingy and button, and it will just happen?
The carousel.
Yeah, the carousel. That's what it's called.
The carousel. Yeah, they're called carousels. There
Oh,
was
I
actu-
think I know.
there was actually a marketing article I read recently where effective carousels do not actually have the little arrows on the side of them.
Yep.
But instead, at the bottom, you have the different screens of the different panels. And that's what drives the viewer or the site visitor to click on them and then use the carousel.
Yep.
Oh,
Apparently,
I know those things. Yeah.
yeah, apparently arrows and little button
Bubbles.
thingies are suboptimal.
Yeah.
So
Totally. I've seen that. Because we at where I work, we sit down users for different UI elements, and we'll have them go through a website, not tell them tell them to try to find something or walk us through what they're looking for, depending on what type of thing. Maybe it's a service they would use, maybe it's something they've never heard of. Where do you find this information? And just watching them miss all this information that's right there in front of them, but they can't see a snapshot of that slider. They can't see that information because there's something else on the page that's just trying to be way too loud and distracting. And
Yeah, trying to guide people through your user interface is basically like herding cats.
yep, essentially.
I. So would you both agree that like an effective UI really doesn't need a tutorial?
Yes,
Yes.
an effective UI basically puts makes the user feel in control.
Yeah.
Could
And you could use a lot of stuff for that. What I did in Midboss is use tooltips like everywhere, which is probably some kind of profanity to usability professionals, but it's a roguelike, so everything needs to have information, and I could have made giant windows upon windows upon windows, and I thought, let's just push all the sub detail for certain stuff into tooltips.
Yeah, that's the way to go. I mean,
Except you can't use tooltips on touch devices, so I'm still screwed.
oh yeah, I forgot about that. Dang it.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah,
not looking
if
forward
you-
to working for actually working on the mobile version of Super Pixalo, mainly for like the controls, trying to figure out
yeah.
like comfortable, because like there's a couple platformers that are really good on mobile. One of them is Super Box Crate, I think it's called.
Super Crate
Crate.
Box?
That, yes, thank you. Super Crate Box has really tight controls.
It does. It does.
And I want to do something like that, and so I've got to I don't know. I'm just trying to just figure all that out. By the way, I got permission from the guy who did like a 17-minute long video of the Super Pixalo demo. I'm gonna post that to you in Skype, and that is like 17 minutes of gameplay, and you can see the UI, you can see the gameplay, you can just have that playing if you would like.
Okay.
Yeah, I got permission from the YouTuber, so.
All right. Is what is this for Android?
No, that's he's running it on the Ouya, which is an Android device.
Okay.
So yeah, when you package it up for the Ouya, you just package it in an APK, whatever that means, and then they just do their thing, and that's how it gets going. Yeah, but you can actually see some of the UI and everything. Gets playing like there you go, right there you go. All right, so any second now. Well, I'm on a delay, so I'm talking based on what's happening in the stream, and that's just going to confuse people. But you can just watch that and Most of it will probably change over time because I'm a big fan of going back and like editing little things that don't need to be edited, but I feel like over time, you can improve on things, and so I like to improve on things way more than.
I know this level.
Yeah, that's the training level. That's the
Yeah.
very first level, and in the full game there'll be a overlay that shows you controls and stuff. Or maybe I'll do something where if you're at a certain point in the background, there's like, here, press this button.
Mm.
I don't know if I need to though, but part of me is because I had like a little play testing session at Easter, and I had non-gamer people play it, and they figured out pretty fast what to do without any help. So I'm like, do I need to have an overlay? Is that
No, not really. The I would say the gameplay is simplistic enough that you can just figure it out.
yeah?
Like if you know the basics of gaming,
Mhm.
or like arrow keys or WASD in space, you can figure out the game pretty easily. I don't think you would need much of tooltips or UI, unless you're planning to, I don't know, include level designer or something like that. This level, what? Yeah, it's I like this level.
This one's a warm up. So, one of the things that I kind of geared the game toward was people who like to speed run. Um, yeah, opaque. I heard gaming said opaque. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I'll do something like that. A little transparent thing behind you, so you can, what kind of like a cue, just in that first level. So you have some sort of hint. Um, there are 3 warm up levels, and because of like the precision needed later on. Um, I wanted to kind of give someone who might speed run the game a little warm up where it's basically a whole lot of those movements repetitively. I thought it was pretty funny. This guy actually went through like the training part because I wouldn't have as a player. I'd been like, yeah, I don't need this, so time for something else. So as he's going through, he's going down to the 70s, but
Never underestimate the stupidity of gamers. Amen.
yes, yeah, 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 yeah.
That is entirely true.
Exotic streamed a very early build, um, and there was a level that I guess I forgot to play test the collectible location, and it was literally impossible to get. But he spent an entire hour
Trying to get it.
trying to get it, an entire hour, and I was thinking I was hurting because I was driving home and I couldn't like chat in the chat, and I just had the stream going on my phone on my dashboard, and I was just cringing because I'm like I totally forgot that you can't like expect the user to know what you're thinking, and that's a perfect example of what happens if you don't. Is the gamer will keep trying and trying and trying, and there are people out there who will just never stop trying until it works, and.
And by some glitchy bug miracle, it does. Like
I know, and then
three-
somehow it does. Because I thought it did work, and it might have been a bug that I've fixed so many bugs since even the build that I sent you, and this build right here was like a month ago. Hundreds of bugs have been fixed. So actually now I'm having trouble finding bugs, which I'm actually happy about. They do sometimes happen. Most of them are because maybe I like didn't do something correct in the level, in my level file, and like forgot an element or something. Because obviously, if I accidentally forget to include the starting position of Pixalo, it will give an error because there's no Pixalo, which is kind of important.
Yeah, yeah. I think you'd need the character to play the game.
Gosh, I'd hate to be a user that suddenly didn't have a player there. I don't know what to do. That'd make me stop playing a game. If you log into a game and like there's some glitch that your player isn't there and you don't get to play, that would be embarrassing. That'd be so embarrassing. But yeah, each of the levels, each of the art is based off of a different decade. So this that's playing right here is the 80s. So you've got that nice blue with a little bit of purple and the high contrast red and yellow. To me, that said 80s. I don't know what it says to other people, but I'm happy with it. I'm actually very happy. This is my favorite level, color palette wise. I explore in the rest of the decades. I explore very different themes with the colors. I just finished the 2010s this week, and that's like black and white with very subtle detail. Pixalo's still blue, but the level and the blocks and the background's all grayscale. And then basically the best way to describe it is the detail is etched in at a slightly lighter contrast, which has honestly a pretty cool effect. Because it doesn't look like your eyes, depending on your monitor, and I realize that on a TV this could totally look just like you're jumping on black blocks. But on a good monitor, you can see the detail within the blocks, and it looks really cool. So each of the different worlds, I explore different, things. So it almost looks like it's a different game each world. I mean, same gameplay, but the art changes so much.
You mean between the decades?
Yeah, between the decades.
Okay.
Because like the '90s are like purple and green and the like that '90s like Goosebumps purple and green, and then what is the 2000s is like a kind of like a professional dark blue, like a navy blue on like a sky blue, not quite sky blue, like a gray blue background. 2000, and it gets darker. I'm still debating what to do with the bonus levels. The bonus levels, no new game mechanics, but I'm either going to have it so you can toggle through while playing it all the different color palettes, or maybe it will have its own special thing. I already know that the block size or the block design will be based off of the the Tetris pattern of 4 block segments.
Oh, okay.
Microsoft background blue. Was that the original? The 80s looked like a Microsoft background blue? Is that what that looked like? That dark blue. I can see that. XP. It's the only level. Reading through comments.
So when designing these puzzles, where do you draw inspiration from? Like, do you just like play platformers over and over again, or like how do you do your quote unquote research?
I purposely have played very few platformers during the development of this. So over the last 6 months, mainly over the last 6 months, when I started developing the level designs themselves, that are actually in the game. I stopped. I didn't play any. I haven't played any really platformers that often because I didn't want that one to have like scope creep, because I see things in other people's games that I really want, and I'm like, oh, I should put that in. I didn't want that to happen because I know that's super easy to be like, yeah, hey, let's have some more stuff in there.
Okay.
So the way I came up with the designs was trying to remember, because it changed as I went through. I tried to stay very symmetrical in the 70s. In the 80s, I still tried to stay pretty symmetrical. In the 90s, which is this world right here, I tried to do a little more with sort of balanced space of blocks throughout the whole maps. The 2000s I do, which you won't see in here and you won't see until the game is out. I try to do a little bit more asymmetry, and then in the 2010s I try to do minimalistic as possible, while still like not so minimalistic with like one jump. It's not minimalism as in the amount of things that are going on and are in the map. The 2010s I used the alphabet as inspiration for some of the general shapes. I'll take like a sketch pad and kind of be like, oh, I want to build a level off of like a blob thing here. Maybe there's something where he has to, stay away from this part over in this corner, but he has to go back up this way. And then I'll be like, okay, then I'll get on my graph paper, which I have tons of, and I'll etch out something, and then I'll be like, all right, well, let's play this, and if it sucks, then I'll edit it a bit. And yeah, I've done that now for 104 levels.
Wow.
I'm a little tired of making levels, honestly.
Yeah,
It's the longest part because of the process. I sketch them and then I put them onto graph paper, and then and then I have to make sure that the spacing between the blocks are such that you can actually jump across the ball. I then one pixel at a time put them into a PNG image. Each level is a PNG image that's a kilobyte or something like that. It's like I don't know, 100 bytes or whatever, 1,000 bytes. And then that's read in through a PixMap, which is a programming thing that takes each pixel within that PNG and generates a block location based on that PNG. And then from there, and then each of those PNGs, their hex code, which is the code that is, tells which red, green, blue stuff is different based on which block it's supposed to show up at the front. So that takes a long time. It's a good couple evenings of the week. So as like in this level or in any of these levels, there's like corner pieces at the top. There's pieces that are kind of like underneath. There's like the middle section you land on. There's different shock pieces. There's stuff for new game mechanics. So there's moving block ones. There's disappearing block ones for the later levels. Whoa!
So this might seem like an obvious question, but have you ever considered making a level editor?
I have. Yes, a lot. I honestly really like doing it the way I'm doing it. For now, eventually I'll do a level editor, but I don't know. To me, it's kind of like a lot of my classes have been online, so it doesn't take a lot of thought, and so I can just sort of plunk each one in, and it's kind of therapeutic. It's relaxing. My life is way too crazy to do anything too crazy, so I just sort of have been doing that because it's kind of soothing.
Yeah, and tool development is even worse than UI development.
Yeah, I'm a little wary about that. I've had very limited time for like different stuff, but
can be
yeah.
really nice when you do finally get a tool up and running. I made a tool for Project Drake, which because Project Drake it uses sprites, but it uses like a sprite that has a diffuse color map, a normal map, and a height map. So there's actually all the 3D information you need to do, like 3D lighting and clipping and stuff.
Wow.
Except there's no way to get a decent workflow in Blender. In fact, it's pretty much impossible to get like world space normal map rendering in Blender. So I had to make my own tool to take the Blender export of the 3D model, and then render it diffuse and normals and height, and save all that and figure out, like, put it in a sprite sheet and get all the offsets right, and then put that in an XML file so my game could read it in. And at some point I just got so frustrated and bored with working on that I decided I'm going to do something fun. Except my definition of fun is making a code module that basically looks at a bunch of images, makes a palette, 256 color palette of it, and then I decided, well, I'm just going to implement the animated GIF specification so I can render out animated GIFs of my models from this one tool.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so I was kind of pleased when I actually got that whole thing working, but it was like several months of work.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, eventually, I mean, I don't know if I'll ever do a platformer again. I may do another platformer. I really want to explore, like, choose your own adventure type things, point and click stuff. And try to, like, because I feel like, at least I haven't played any games like that in a while, and so I've been thinking about some ideas that would probably be pretty cool. potentially, in that format.
Why point and click specifically?
I grew up on a lot of this.
Ah, okay.
I'm a little ashamed to say that I played a lot of Nancy Drew, because my little sister had that, and for some reason, I grew up and we didn't have we didn't watch TV, we didn't do anything like that, and so my parents would let us have 2 hours of playing video games a week, and we had to be very smart about what we played so that we maximized the amount of game time playing. And this also fueled a lot of the decisions I made with Super Pixalo. The maximum amount of game stuff, and then of course we didn't have a game system, so we couldn't like play the latest stuff, so we were kind of limited. So like Super Pixalo runs on like an old XP machine as long as you have like Java 6 or 5. I think it runs on Java 5, which is a couple years old. And like that was my childhood. Like I didn't have the luxury that all my friends did of like, hey, you want to come over and play on my GameCube? We'll play like Tony Hawk or whatever. I had very different, just different world growing up there, and so I forget what I was talking about.
Point and click games.
Point and click games, yes. So my little sister had Nancy Drew, and we, I guess that wasn't considered a game or something, so we were allowed to play that a little more during the week. So she would play it, and we would sort of sit, and we'd all play it together, kind of, me and my older siblings, and yeah, that was just kind of fun, and I liked that idea, though. It was always so fun to solve those little puzzles, and so I've been kind of, and I love cryptography, the idea more than actual implementation. But I really like that, just what you can do with that medium in that way of like having like a more brain intensive puzzle game where you actually have to break code and stuff. I really want to do a code breaking game really, really badly, because I don't know of any that like you have to learn Caesar ciphers or like, number offset theories to like play the game. I'm really into like if I build a game, at least now, I want you to walk away with either learning something or being interested in going and like revisiting something that you know about. And for Super Pixalo, that's movies and music. Older movies and music. That's if a player plays the game and is like after that it's like, I really want to go watch Back to the Future again, like all 3 episodes. That movie was great. I want to watch it all again. It served that purpose. But one of the things in you and I, Vin, have talked about this. One of the other things is education in games and like how that can play out. So my theory is that maybe that's possible through having the game mechanic basically be you're gonna the player has to learn something to play the game, like Caesar ciphers, or understand some of the history behind that, or how ciphers work. And ciphers aren't too hard. I mean, a couple Googling. I mean, that was one of the fun things about like Myst and some of those other games is like you'd play these games and you'd sometimes have to search stuff or like pull in different resources like an encyclopedia to figure out some of the words or artifacts you were playing with, and I love that. I wanna bring that kind of back. Maybe I'm missing those types of games these days, but I don't see them a lot. I know Jonathan Blow's working on his the iPads on walls playing Snake is what I would visually describe The Witness.
I think Fez has something like that, but
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Fez is also something that does a really cool. That just is an amazing game. As a standalone game, is incredible.
I have to admit, I haven't played it.
It's if
then
you've seen
I
any
don't
of
play
it.
a lot of games anymore because I don't have any time.
Too busy making your own.
Yep.
It's hard
That's
to
kind of
make games.
yeah. Make games and play games. It's like mutually exclusive. You've been making a game all day, and then you have a couple hours to relax at night. It's like the last thing you
I
usually
don't want
want
to
to
play a
do is
game. Yeah.
play a game.
I'm hopeful because I've played Pixalo now almost every day for 9.5 months now, and I haven't gotten tired of it. I'm really hoping that that's a good sign. Either I'm going crazy from having played this game so much, and my mind is like, no, this just feels right, because we like this game. You don't have to think much, um, or or maybe I'm actually going crazy. I don't know, man.
A little from column A, a little from column B.
Yeah, just
Honestly.
all of it.
I think now would be a good time for a break, a quick 10-minute break, and we will come back with some topics as well as some questions from the chat. That sound good to you too?
Sounds perfect.
Yep.
All right, quick 10-minute break. Okay, I just got back.
We were talking about
Hello.
the Kevin Spacey Princess Warrior
Zombie warrior princess.
zombie Princess Warrior.
Yeah, that was actually a topic during the Checkpoint podcast. Big Red NY and Deep Voice and I were talking about all of the different iterations of Call of Duty, actually. And how the most recent one has Kevin Spacey in it, as well as cyborg robot dually bopper thingies. And we were talking about how the previous one was. We were talking about how the previous ones were like you had Ghost Zombies, Call of Duty Ghost Zombies. You had the aliens in the most recent one. So we were just like Kevin Spacey, like Call of Duty, Kevin Spacey, zombie warrior princess.
To be fair, Kevin Spacey is like the most interesting thing about Call of Duty in the past 10 years.
Yes, I concur. That's Kevin Spacey.
I saw the trailer. I was like, I'm still not going to buy this crap, but good performance.
Kevin Spacey is the first piece of good game development that has ever come out of Call of Duty.
And he's not even a game mechanic yet.
Exactly.
Yet.
No, he better be the game mechanic. That's the game. Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey. I would play that. I would pay $100 to buy that game. Kevin Spacey, the game.
Press X to Kevin Spacey.
Kevin.
Like having rain.
And that means he would wrap his knuckles on the on whatever table was nearest. That would be the Kevin Spacey move. Hopefully somebody got that joke.
I don't have a topic for today, by the way.
That's okay. The Spacey parable. Kevin Spacey versus Morgan Freeman. Spacey invaders. No, seriously. Call of Spacey.
Oh,
Modern Kevin.
Oh, you know what we need? A Spacey Jam.
Oh no! Son of a bitch.
I am in on that. Eniko, you want to head that off?
What, with like a keynote?
Yeah,
Kevin Spacey.
Just host the entire thing.
Kevin Spacey keynote.
Oh, dude, I bet he would be the type of person who would be like, "Hey, a bunch of people want to make games about me. I'm gonna be the host of that."
Just might, yeah.
Show up not knowing anything about game development. Actually, he seems like the kind of guy who's really just interested in I don't know him. I don't know anything really about him except I like his movies, his recent movies. He just seems like potentially the kind of person who would like totally want to get into a community and just kind of like learn a bit about it.
I would think, actually, funny thing is, I think either Boys Deep or or Big Red NY mentioned this, but during the series House of Cards, Kevin Spacey's character actually played Call of Duty as a sort of way to wind down and relax. And I was like, holy crap!
And one of the big problems in the newest season was he wanted to play Call of Duty, and they turned off all the internet of his house because he became vice president, and that of course was a big deal.
And he can't play online.
Yeah, and he couldn't play online, and he was really upset about that because he couldn't play Call of Duty.
Okay, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. He had a PS3, and then in one of the episodes he does a shout out for like someone brings in their PSP, and he makes a whole comment about, oh man, I should get that for my limousine.
What the fuck? Oh, I need to watch House of Cards.
You haven't seen House of Cards?
I have not, with the amount of stuff I've been doing. No.
It's more rewarding than sleep. I'll tell you that.
Okay, I will watch House of Cards instead of sleeping.
It's more rewarding than your sleep schedule for sure.
Probably yeah, actually.
How much sleep are you getting now these days with however many streams you're doing?
When I actually do them, more like 1.5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
I was gonna say
not healthy.
That's not normal or healthy.
I was gonna say 2, but then wait, no, it's actually more like 1.5.
How do you function?
Like 4 hours of
sleep.
I
thought it was 4 or something. Dude, seriously, you can't do 2 hours sustained, man.
Yeah.
You should know this. Aren't you a brain surgeon? Haven't you seen brains that don't... They turn into characters from Dead Space. That was the inspiration for Dead Space. One of the developers stayed up too long.
Oh, those Resident Evil things.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Where, like, the hat pops up and then all these tentacles come out.
Oh, yeah.
Resident Evil 4, yeah.
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 The super cuddlies.
That's gonna be you.
I like how current topics is like Call of Duty, Kevin Spacey, Call of Spacey Advanced Kevin, Spacey Jam, and last
podcast.
And the last one is Vince Intervention.
Oh yeah, man. I don't understand how you do it, but I have major respect for you wanting to actually do that and putting yourself through that.
It's an adventure.
That's for sure.
Science boost, yeah. I Heart Pie's got it right. You know, biology,
That's
chemistry, physics students were trained to not sleep and yet function at the highest degree. I mean, after
the last 2 years of the last year of college, I'd say that because I'm now at the tail end. And most of my programming stuff that I took for Easy A's because I've been programming for 11 years now. Not as long as Eniko, but
well, that's because I'm ancient and a dinosaur. Rawr.
Whoa there.
Hey, dinosaurs not a bad time.
Yeah, but so I took like a Java class for Easy A, and I told the professor, I'm like, I've been doing this for a while. I'm just taking this for an Easy A, and he didn't want to hear it. Like he would just kept talking over and being like, oh, you're gonna learn about this stuff called object-oriented programming and whatever arrays, multi-dimensional arrays, and I'm like, I know.
Oh, multi-dimensional arrays. It's like a one-dimensional array except with 2 dimensions for indexing.
Exactly.
Wow, that's freaking amazing.
Well, I actually use multi-dimensional arrays and put value in both of them, and so that and then I just index them based on whatever's, like, I'll put objects in them. And so they actually are multi-dimensional. And then actually you could put I think you could make arrays of arrays in Java. Which then you're just working on like stuff.
Actually, if you
really
want to have a proper multidimensional array in Python, you have to do a list lists and lists.
Lists. Oh
Kind of
yeah.
stupid.
Yeah,
Like, I
Java.
never like that part about Python. 'Cause
One of the things
you
I
get
hate
a
about
lopsided two-dimensional array.
Yeah. One of the things I hate about Java that I love in JavaScript is that in JavaScript you can just, and that's what I do for my job, is I'm a web developer, so JavaScript is like the normal stuff. I do that during the day. One of the things that you can't do is like append, like add on to a an array as an array in Java. You have to either make it a list.
When you do push,
You have to do in a list. Well,
or
yeah, I
do
guess
we have different versions of what an array in JavaScript is?
no, not JavaScript. JavaScript you can. In Java you can. You have to
Oh,
give it a hard amount.
Oh yeah, it's the same way in C Sharp. You have special collections for stuff that you can add on.
Which I hate because I love in JavaScript, but I'm like, just pop it in an array. Sweet, add a couple things here, add a couple things there. Ready to roll.
And in Java, it's probably arrays in Java are fixed length.
Yep, they're fixed length, so I usually use lists unless I actually can use fixed. Like with levels, I read them from a PNG and then put them in arrays depending on what object they are, and then basically go from there.
Is arrays, is that jargon? Because I'm not sure. Arrays seems
I
basically...
believe the term arrays in Java would be considered jargon.
They're the same. I mean, they're the same. It's just a slightly different way you implement them. A different type of syntax. Yeah, I'll probably do more HTML5 games. I miss doing those because they're quick, they're easy, way easier than programming in in a real object-oriented programming language for like smaller stuff. Like trying to use like Java or Monogame or LibGDX or even like Unity for a small little like game jam game, man.
Yeah, that's why I do my game jam games in HTML5.
Yeah, it's the way to go.
Throw in some WebGL, use TypeScript so you don't have to use JavaScript.
Yep. It's the way to
We're
do
totally out-jargoning the chat right now.
We're jargoning equally, but in two completely opposite directions. At least you guys are game related. We're talking. Yeah, we're trying to out jargon the devs.
Out jargon the devs. Oh yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
You're using medical stuff, man.
Do you
That's not
even
fair.
qPCR? Do you even?
Hey, I know some neurochemistry. Okay, I barely know anything.
You know more than I do.
Do you even real-time PCR? It's pretty much the same thing, but
It's
still.
not like a real-time strategy, but different.
Actually,
Sounds like
Essentially,
StarCraft, isn't it? That's code for StarCraft, isn't it? I know what you guys are doing.
no. Do you even 5-minute push? Now that's StarCraft jargon.
So, did you guys hear about, to totally change the subject, did you guys hear about the ET dig?
No. What
Oh
is
yeah,
that?
I did. There was this urban myth about E.T. which crashed the game industry back when because it was so bad. And they couldn't sell it, and they dumped it all in some huge landfill somewhere, like thousands of
Oh,
ET games.
the Atari game.
Yeah, and they actually found the dump site, so it's
They
not
found
an
it,
urban
yeah.
legend.
Holy crap!
Stuff was still
I've heard
shrink wrapped.
legends of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it turns
it's
out it
like-
was true. They figured
Oh
out where it
my
was, and
Oh my god!
it's
Like the
exciting. It's
whole-
What are
exciting.
you unearthing, you madmen?
Yes.
No, leave it buried, you fools! You fools!
I hope they're gonna like sell those on eBay and stuff, and like as in like glass cases or something, and charge thousands of dollars, and people will bring back Atari by paying for a really crappy game.
Goat Simulator, move aside.
Yeah,
We're bringing it back.
E.T. 2.0.
Uh,
E.T. The Journey Home.
They dug too greedily and too deep. And then, oh my god, this is...
Returns. You know what? I feel like the industry, you guys, I'd love your opinion on this, but I feel like the game industry is due for a good cleansing, especially in the AAA and the in between indie and whatever, and AAA, where there's a lot of like companies that are just obviously making games just to make crappy products to try to make as much money as possible. Like they're using them. The method that Rovio did, what they make 51 games before they came up with the idea for Angry Birds, and all those they almost went bankrupt with those 51 games. None of them were making money, and I feel like there's so many companies who are like, oh, if we just pump out as much total crap as possible, one of those is going to be great. And you see that in the mobile industry, and I feel like PC is getting there, especially with Greenlight. I like Greenlight, but I feel like it's getting cluttered in this way.
I don't like Greenlight. I don't know what you're talking about.
I hate Greenlight.
I like that they have a way for, in theory, for people to get their games on there.
I think
okay.
Steam is just terrible for indies in general.
Yeah, I don't actually plan
terrible.
on putting Super Pixalo. I don't think will be on Steam, not through Greenlight anyway. Maybe
I hope
after it's out.
Valve never hears about this podcast because I do want to be on Steam.
Oh well, everybody, you know, bash.
But that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
I like the idea behind Greenlight. I understand it, but
Mm-hmm.
the execution was so lacking.
Yeah.
Well, they want to get rid of it. They are going to get rid of it, I think. Pretty soon. That's why they've been working through the backlog of Greenlight games.
Oh, they're rushing through it?
Yeah. I think what Valve is doing with Steam right now is let's just get all the crap on there, all the Greenlight games, and get rid of Greenlight and let all the publishers dump their back catalogs, and then, Steam will be shit for a while, and then it'll settle down, and everything will be okay, and then we can open up the store more for people to get themselves on there and get more self-publishing going on. That's my guess where they're going. I think that would be smart, but Valve has not historically proven themselves to be particularly smart.
Yeah, I'd like to see Itch.io do something in the sense that, like to create some sort of client so that you can kind of manage your games, like you can with Steam, just in the way that you can have like basically a downloader and then just have something you can launch all your games from one location. Not necessarily all the integration with like profiles and everything, but just something that hooks up to your profile on Itch.io, and then you can just straight from there. Because I'll buy games. I haven't bought any games recently, but I've bought stuff on like Itch.io, and then I'll totally forget that I bought it, and I wish there was just like a desktop client or something that I could manage that from, rather than just a web browser. Because I may have actually downloaded, maybe I actually installed it, but I totally forgot about it. So something that I can like just one-stop shop. I'd love to see Itch.io do that. We'll see.
I do find it amusing that Itch.io seems to be getting so big, even though there's like always been all these other sites for indie games.
Yeah.
But they never really, like, took off, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know. I personally, I don't play enough games to go under Sura, or what's the other one called? Indie Royale, or
I don't even know.
Stuff like that. I don't even know.
In June, I'll be figuring out where to put Super Pixalo for desktop release. Right now, I'm thinking Itch.io.
Yeah, I would say Itch.io.
Itch.io has still some teething issues.
Yeah. So I'm a little cautious, but I'd really like to... I just want it to be able to, like, for normal people to find it. Like my friends who have never gone to Itch.io, and, all of them know Steam. And that's the benefit of being on Steam, is you can just, like, look it up on Steam. They have Steam. They'll find it on Steam. They'll download it. But, yeah.
I would say shy away from Desura because Desura is trying too hard to be Steam.
Hmm.
Like with their with Desura's client, it's sort of like Steam, but it's too much like a web browser.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I personally I have a Desura account, but I never use it. I go on Itch.io more often than I go on Desura. Well,
Bless you.
Bless you.
Sorry.
Blessings on your head, Mazel Tov, Mazel
Well, there's nothing wrong with being on Desura.
No.
With
Yeah.
also being on Desura.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying I go on Itch.io more often than I go on Desura. That's
Yeah,
all.
Itch.io is becoming this indie household name, I think.
It is.
Mostly because the devs are very much embracing it. Mostly because the guy who runs Itch.io is pretty groovy, to put it mildly.
Oh, what do you can you like explain?
Well, as far as I know, he's still not taking a cut of like sales, even though he's doing the
Oh.
payment processing.
I like that.
So basically, he's being a huge altruist. Eventually, that's going to stop, but
Yeah.
for now, that's a big draw, I think.
I would imagine so, yes. Okay. So, yeah, Tom's right. T Coxon is right. Itch.io still hasn't really won yet, but
It's getting there.
yeah, like what else is there?
Well, good old gaming is way too picky.
GOG is weird. It used to be just like older games, and then it started branching
Yeah,
out
now
into...
it's like it's kind of lost its identity. It's still a good site, but it's a bit unfocused. I don't know if indies can get on Green Man Gaming.
Green Man Gaming basically sells Steam keys.
Yeah.
That's what most people use it for anyway.
Yeah.
So that's not very good. So that basically leaves you with Desora and a couple of others, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the desktop is you know, this is part of why I wanted to do Ouya first. Is Ouya's really easy. Like you send it in, they review it, they play test it, you know, they let you know. They give it like an hour and then tell you about the games. Oh, Humble Store.
Oh, right. Oh,
Oh yeah, they
thank
have
you,
a
Pi.
thing now too, don't they?
sorry. Humble. Yes.
Yeah, I'll probably try to get on there. Yeah, I think Roller Derby Disco Dodgeball was
Doesn't
sold
the Humble
originally
Store
from,
take a very big cut though? I recall hearing something about that. I'm not quite sure myself.
I don't know actually. Maybe.
Plus, what Itch.io has, which is really cool, is the whole press access thing, which I'm not quite sure how it works, but
Humble's cut is smaller than Steam's, apparently.
well,
How
yeah,
much is
that's
Steam's?
because Valve is God.
Because Gabe Newell's God.
Yeah, Gabe Newell's God and
I
Steam
have
is
more
life.
money than God.
Is that who heads that up?
What?
I jumped into the
You don't
indie
know
industry
who,
like I don't know names. I jumped into the
Wow.
indie industry like a year ago, so I'm still like there's like still drama that's going on from years ago that I'm still trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So I'm like a virgin to all this. I've been unsoiled by this past drama and whoever that guy is. I'm guessing he's in the head of Steam.
That's a good thing. Yeah, Gabe Newell is the head of Valve.
Valve, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's not just the head of Steam, he's the head of Valve.
he has more money than God.
He might have more followers.
Probably.
Actually, you know what? Let's see. We have Twitter. We can check this out.
PC Gaming Master Race.
Damn it. He doesn't have a Twitter. Because he doesn't need one. He just whispers and everyone hears it.
Wow, he doesn't have a Twitter. How the hell does he even live?
Because he doesn't need it.
Because gaming.
I wouldn't say that, Hacksaw. I would not. Well, you can say it's the reason why it exists this way.
Yeah, that's a bit overblown.
But I wouldn't say it's the reason why PC gaming exists. I mean, I would imagine if Gabe Newell didn't do it, someone else would have. Like in the way that everything's downloaded, everything's live updated, etc., etc. I wouldn't. Half-Life.
That's not as big an influence as you might think.
Yeah, that's kind of like, especially for the newer generation of gamers, which, I mean, as game developers, we kind of got to think about, at least I think we need to think about, because we are having a lot of people who are 10 and 12 right now. They're getting their first game consoles. They're starting to play the game, and right now, I mean, I feel like the AAA community is kind of very hostile, and so indies kind of can. There's so much drama in the indie community, though. I don't know. That was an incomplete thought.
Indies like drama, so that's the thing.
Yes.
Well, if you guys don't have drama, where would you get ideas for game jams?
That's true. Basically, Gender Jam, Game Jam,
Flappy Jam.
Flappy Jam.
I think Spacey Jam is the only jam that's not drama
gonna
fueled.
be a thing.
It should be a thing, and it will be one of the only game jams that is not drama fueled.
But yeah, I think Steam was definitely instrumental in PC gaming coming back more because of the deep discounts that it does, which is not something that you saw before. And that brought a whole lot of people back to PC gaming because it's like, well, this can actually run my games at 1080p 60 FPS, and I can get them for a whole lot cheaper. Well, I might return from console to PC.
Yeah, it's now to the point where I'm like, I could build my own PC for cheaper than an Xbox and do more things with it.
If you could get a pretty decent non-streaming but gaming PC, for very, very cheap, actually. I would, if I wasn't streaming, I would have been able to make my PC and still play everything for
I'd say like under 500 probably.
Yeah, around 500 would be the mark. Yeah.
You'd have something that works better than an Xbone.
Oh yeah, less buggy.
It would be more. It would have more functionality as well because hell, it's a PC. I could have like Microsoft Office. I could have email. Everything would be on it. Streaming. Hell.
Or OpenOffice.
Or OpenOffice. I'm old timey. But yeah, I mean, shit. If I had to choose between a basic PC even that could play some games over Xbox, I would choose the PC. Just because of functionality.
Well, that's why they're adding more functionality, I guess, to the Xbox One.
The Xbox One, like, the keyboard gamepad is crap.
There's a keyboard gamepad? Oh, the thing that hooks on?
Yeah, the one that it's basically like a sidekick keyboard.
There's a keyboard peripheral?
That's attaches
that's
onto...
weird.
Oh, what do we think about the Steambox? Ooh.
I think Steambox is great. I think that's gonna definitely bring PC gaming to a place in the industry where it hasn't ever been, because PC gaming, ever since the Nintendo, has played second fiddle, I think, to console gaming. And I think with Steambox, they might finally make... I'm not sure if they will, but it has the potential to bring it to enough people that PC gaming will be the big audience drawy thingy, instead of consoles. So you might start seeing things like games coming to Steambox or PC first and then coming to consoles. Whereas right now it's still the other way around.
Yeah, I mean the chat pad, yes. All right, yeah, we might as well move to the open forum section.
Oh, I have a
of
lot to say about Linux gaming too. Someone in the chat said.
Oh no, who mentioned Linux?
I'm
Oh,
actually I've confirmed that Super Pixalo runs very well on Linux.
Ooh.
Well, okay, so I programmed it so that it and part of this is just the fact that it's a low resource intensive game. It only takes up like 40 megabytes of RAM with all the music and graphics loaded.
Man,
So,
that's hardly anything. Shit.
It's barely a footprint. So I think I tried to run on my netbook, but my netbook does not have a any kind of graphics card, and I'm using OpenGL 2, which requires a graphics card so you can load drivers and stuff that Eniko knows about. But yes.
Okay. I think any other topics you guys?
Well,
would like
I was
to bring
going to
up?
talk about Linux gaming, but
All right,
then I
yeah.
never got the chance.
No, yeah, go for it.
Well, I think Linux gaming is important because as a developer, DirectX is just, Microsoft has been really shit towards their PC developers. There's like DirectX 11, which didn't work on the majority operating system.
I heard about that, yeah.
I think, does that work on Windows 7? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But yeah, that didn't work, DirectX 11.
I think it does work on 7, yes.
Yeah. It didn't work on XP, I think, and that was when XP was still the most used operating system. Which is really a dick move.
Was this while Vista was out? Or before or after?
I think so, yeah.
Oh god.
And they just do these things with really good features, but then they don't make it backwards compatible because they're invested in selling their, new operating systems, and that's not good for the devs. And like Tom is saying, they're killing XNA too. Well, they actually killed XNA quite a while ago. And that's why I'm switching to monogame, and a lot of people are. And basically, they put lots of effort into marketing XNA, and then they drop it because it's not as successful as they wanted, and they kind of leave behind the ruins. And the thing is, with Linux, it's an open system. So OpenGL is like, it's not a driver, it's not a software, it's not libraries. It's just, an interface to your graphics card that does the same things as DirectX does, except it's open. And I think we really need to push towards Linux gaming, because gaming is the one thing that Linux has been historically kind of bad at. And I think it would be good for developers if Microsoft Windows was no longer the primary development target.
I agree.
I would argue though that the market size for a Linux-based game is a bit lacking compared to.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, but that's the point. It won't go up as long as there's nobody backing Linux gaming, and as long as nobody backs Linux gaming, the usage rates won't go up. So it's good that Valve is basically putting their weight behind it, because they actually have weight to put behind it. And once you start seeing that mainstream move towards Linux, then Linux will also get a lot more user-friendly. They say Ubuntu is user-friendly and anyone can use it, but that's bollocks. it's still nowhere near as usable as, say, you know, Windows 7 or Windows Metro or, you know,
Oh, I don't know
those
about
Mac
Windows Metro.
things.
Windows Metro is confusing.
Well, to us, but to your average, 60-year-old tablet user.
Because there's
Wait,
lots of
what?
those.
Yeah. Um, biggest problem is that Linux is just scary. Is just intimidating.
Yeah, but
How,
that's not going to get better unless giants back it and make it more user friendly.
this is true. This is true. I used. What was it? It would have been back in like the early 2000s, early 90s. Like, what was it Red Hat Fox or something like that? I think
Red Hat, yeah.
yeah, I think it was a Linux system, right?
Distro, yeah.
Yeah, I used that once and it actually didn't seem that bad, but I was like 11 at the time and my cousin is a computer programmer, as is like 99% of my cousins. Um, but he was just showing me it, and it was different, but I wouldn't say more difficult to use. It's just a different functionalities. It's sort of like the jump from Mac to Windows. It's a different operating system. That's it.
Well, sure, but I also have Ubuntu right now installed on a virtual machine because there's no proper free movie editing software for Windows, so I'm using OpenShot on Ubuntu.
Oh, is that free?
And like I needed to set up a network share to access the files, and it's like, well, read the man pages or use Samba, and I'm like, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. And eventually I just, did a terminal command script to set that up, and that's just not where you want to be. But the Steam box is going to be for a whole different audience because it's mostly going to function as a console. But still, that's going to, make it more attractive to get gaming on Linux. So, yeah.
It is bad marketing, word of mouth. Have you guys seen those mini PCs designed for gaming?
No.
Like
What are these?
the gigabyte box. Hang on, let me just look it up here. I can get the news article because Ars Tech was Ars Technica. Is that it? Yeah, Ars Technica was looking at PC gaming boxes. They're like little. Here we go. Let me just post that up in the chat so you guys can check it out. Fast but compromised gigabytes AMD powered mini gaming PCs. Look how small that damn thing is.
I like it. I love it.
That's a gaming PC. It's
sweet. The specs sound decent.
It's not a console. That's a PC. That's a baby PC.
It's about 4 times the size of an Ouya, but besides that,
That might be something I might want to put in my living room.
yeah, I'd put that under the TV. I mean, it's got USB ports, so I imagine you can just plug like your Blu-ray player in and use it as output. HDMI output, I would assume it has that.
It does have a GPU. Internal, I think.
Yeah, dedicated, integrated. Excuse me. I want one. Looks cool. Looks fun. When I become a millionaire, I'll get one. I'll get one for all of you.
Cool.
Look under your
I'm gonna
seats.
hold you to that.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, spoiler, not becoming a millionaire. So,
But
You never know.
It's interesting though that, like, why would you make a mini gaming PC?
why
the
not?
hell not?
Yeah.
I know, but you guys were just mentioning Steambox, and I just remembered, like, oh right, mini gaming PCs are a thing.
Yeah, but that's because you can put them in the living room more easily. If you have to put a whole, tower in there, it's a lot less, nice looking, basically.
Mm.
It's also stuff that you can take with you on the go, which is nice. So I see definitely, I do always see a market for this kind of stuff, but it just hasn't taken off yet. It's kind of like if I could have this or an Ouya, I would buy this because I like my consoles a bit beefier than the Ouya,
It is
and I
5
have
times
more
the
money to
price.
spend.
That's the one thing about the Ouya, especially right now. It's like Target's always going on sale for like $70 with it. Phew. I mean, seriously, for the amount of fun you'll have on that thing, it's worth it. And even if all you're gonna do is hate, you're gonna have fun hating. I guarantee that.
Yeah, I'm not saying like that there's anything wrong with the Ouya. I'm just saying why is the Ouya accepted as a quote unquote gaming console when it's just basically an Android distro running on a tiny PC with a Bluetooth controller?
Yep.
And why not this?
Because it's, I don't know. That's a good question. Does this come with controller, or is that just an Xbox controller?
That's just an Xbox controller.
Yeah, that's
So that's probably the big difference. Is that if it shipped with a controller, as a Steam box, that would probably work really well.
Yeah, because Steam boxes are gonna have those Steam controllers.
How much are those controllers going to cost, though? If you want to get one and just hook it up with your own,
I have no idea.
I'm going to bet.
I haven't
over
heard anything lately
$150.
about these controllers, even though everyone was so enthralled with like the weird, the nub control thingies.
it's not exactly a nub. It's supposed to be like a finger pad.
Well, yeah, that's why they were, so into it.
It was supposed to. Oh God. It's supposed to emulate the mouse controls. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, that's
how?
the touchpad in the center, I think.
No, no.
Oh wait, no, that's the PlayStation.
Yeah.
It's the dual trackpads where
Yeah,
you put
yeah,
your
yeah.
thumbs.
Apparently, they are better than a normal stick for mouse controls, but they're still nowhere near as good.
I'm just curious to try them. A friend of mine got a PS4 and we played Towerfall. I talked him into getting Towerfall. He was super skeptical. He got it and ended up staying up till 3 a.m. with one of his friends playing it. They couldn't get enough of it. But which really that's the only good game on the besides Resogun on the PS4 right now.
Ah, okay.
And that controller is very comfortable. It's I want to say a little more comfortable than the Xbox 360 controller. I really like my 360. I don't have a 360, but I have the controller. I use it with my Ouya, and it works perfectly, and it is so comfortable. The only problem is I can't get it to work with my Mac. If I plug it in and unplug it on my Mac, it will restart my Mac.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a nice feature.
Yeah, exactly. If it ever gets frozen, I'll just plug it in and then unplug it and hard restart.
Okay, do we have any questions from the viewers? While I look up for another topic.
Well, it is kind of getting late for me.
Yeah, that's what we'll just, wait a couple minutes if there are any questions. If not, we'll just wind down and end the podcast there because I've been podcasting
For 6 hours
6
now?
hours, yeah.
give or take.
Give or
Good
take
job.
a few.
Give or take.
No biggie.
Well, if you only sleep for an hour and a half.
Yeah, holy crap.
Efficiency.
Technically, you could be sleeping 6 times your normal amount, or 4 times your normal amount of sleeping. Instead, you're spending it with us.
I do hope that you catch up on sleep,
Yeah, dude. Tomorrow,
like
man.
once a week or something.
Tomorrow's Sunday. Sleep in.
Sleep in? What is
Yeah.
this sleeping in?
To you, that would be waking up at 5 instead of 4.
Oh, that would be nice, actually.
Maybe that might be a good idea for you.
Actually, no. With my current sleep schedule, I'm actually out by like 1, and I have to get up around 2:33 to get ready for my morning stream.
Oh my god. Do you nap in between or something? I don't understand what you're doing.
If
I get 9 hours of sleep and I'm still tired.
That's your problem. You're getting 9 hours of sleep. Bring that
Yeah.
back to about 7, and you should be good.
yeah, you
Yeah,
need
it's
to
not gonna
adjust.
happen. I'm an old lady. I'm not getting 7 hours of sleep.
I've been getting like 4 hours, and it for like a month straight because of all the assignments and stuff for finishing up college, and it all caught up with me midweek. I like just passed out, just completely passed out. Got home, started programming on fun stuff, and it was just all of a sudden I couldn't do anything, and I went to lay down and completely fell asleep
And
for
people
like
tell
10
me
hours
to take
straight.
vacation.
I wouldn't mind a vacation. Actually, the last vacation I took, what'd I do? I took a vacation to work on game dev.
Nice. By the way, Tom, no, I don't do crack. I live and breathe by gaming.
So close enough. Super
Basically,
Pixalo has been called digital crack, which I'm still very happy about. I'm okay with this.
Hell, Pixelo on its own. Like I could not stop until I beat that one level.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about that, and it's making me playtest way more than I normally would because I don't want to happen what happened to Exotics happen to anyone else, where they're just spending like hours on one level, and it's because of some stupid spacing glitch.
No, well, the level that I played, there was no actual spacing glitch. It's just that like the entire floor is covered in oil.
Oh yeah, well everything's slippy and slidey, and that's how you play the game.
It's a fun game too, man. It's
Yep.
I do agree with your efficiency of gameplay. It's definitely a game that you can play, in between breaks or for 5 minutes real quick, especially if you have it on your laptop or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
precisely.
The only problem is when you start beating the levels and it's that one more level. Because the levels, you devious man.
Yeah, there's definitely like a and what Octopunk was saying in that YouTube video was, and I didn't really intend it to be this way. I just intended it to be a little more texture to the gameplay with the collectibles. But the collectibles are a nice little carrot on a stick, because it's like as you start getting that they're from movies, and then you're like, oh, I know what this reference is, and all the references are very vague, and that's on purpose, mostly for copyright issues. I don't want to get sued.
Of course.
But I want to have, I have stuff like, a volleyball or something, with a face on it, and it's not technically copyright. It's not footage or anything like that. It's not from the movie. Well, it's I don't know. Anyway, it's confusing, but which I'm a little worried about, but I'm not too worried about. I have no idea.
That's
I'm probably
really
gonna get sued.
helpful.
I'm probably gonna get sued at some point, but
Nah, you'll be fine.
yeah, I'll be fine. Well, the thing I have to keep reminding myself is that I'm a nobody, so that's okay. Nobody's gonna be like, "Hey, did you hear about this little indie game where they have like these little pixel arted, a pixel arted staff topper from Indiana Jones, but you kind of can't tell that it's that, but you kind of can."
I would say they would be endeared. It's
If
like,
anything,
oh,
yeah, exactly. If anything, it's like these are all there are how many movies referenced? There are 101 different movies referenced.
well,
That are
now you know everyone's got to find them all.
you have to find them all. If you want to. I mean, like that gameplay in itself is totally optional. Like you don't have to go. You can complete the level without getting the collectible. But it's that extra carrot on a stick thing to be like, well, I want to check this out. And on the later levels, holy freaking cow, dude! I made those levels hard because you have to like go through the whole level to get the collectible, and then backtrace to like the beginning to get to the portal.
Oh,
So you
jeez.
have to. Oh, the levels are huge. So this right here is one level. Okay. So the later levels are 4 times as tall and 5 times as tall. Um, so they're
Jesus
huge.
Christ,
They
dude.
they take me they take me a long time to play. I get excited when I finish one.
Well, I would say
um,
that's a good thing.
yeah, well, hopefully, I'm expecting to get quite a few emails of you're a total idiot. Why'd you make this game so hard? Or the stupid question that, of course, people will ask, and this is what people asked of the web game: Did you mean to make it this hard? No.
Eniko,
Oops, I better go in and make it easier.
do you have anything to say, Eniko? Have you
About
still about
about
like
what?
about like people sending you emails like, why did you make this so hard? Like,
Um,
how would you reply to that?
Why were you born so slow?
Now, come on,
Sorry, that was
that's a
mean.
little
That's mean,
mean.
yeah.
I did get a Reddit post on /r/midboss, which, because it's the top post, is right underneath the pinned post
Oh, no.
about known issues, where they told me they really wanted to play the game, but they had a known issue. So I was like, yeah, that's a known issue, and referred them to the post right above. But I
Wow.
haven't gotten comments like, why have you made this so hard? I don't think. Maybe
You're
I did, I
lucky.
just ignored it.
You're
It's like,
lucky.
it's a different crowd though. I mean, it's
It is.
roguelike players, and they're like, well, I haven't died 20 times in half a minute, so it's not excessive.
They're used to the pain.
Yeah, which is a
It's
good thing.
Yeah,
I
that is something that's different, and like roguelike stuff, you're expecting to play over and over because it's a rogue. So
Yep.
you've got those dynamic things. Like if you were to get like, could you imagine getting a game like what was that game? The Binding of Isaac, right?
Yeah, I was just about to.
It's technically it's a very hard but short game, and if you like didn't know it was if you didn't know that it was like supposed to be played over and over again, that would be kind of like a bummer. Um, you'd miss
Well,
out on so much. Now
there is
you
one design change that I did in mid-boss that's different from most roguelikes. Most roguelikes are very random in terms of how well your run goes.
Okay.
And in mid-boss, it's because right now the core is learning those abilities from the enemies, and they're always going to be the same. And I did that quite consciously because once you figure out the strategy that gets you through another mob, then you can keep repeating that strategy in subsequent playthroughs because there's no randomizer that says, oh, you're not going to have this ability that time. Well, in normal roguelikes, you might get a very good item that carries you through and then
yeah.
not have it the next time. And I am going to add that randomness, but it's going to be like optional instead of required. So I do think mid-boss is a bit, in a way, a lot of players don't think right to see this, but I think it's a bit easier because once you figure it out, you can repeat it than most roguelikes, which I think is an interesting property.
Interesting. All right. Okay. I think on that note, if there are no other questions from the audience, we can just wrap it up there and um, say our farewells. Any more questions from the audience?
I think the audience is still wondering if you're on crack, apparently.
I'm not on crack. I'm.
The question is what type of crack?
Oh.
Let's get specific here.
Let's see. What have I? Well, that should
Wow,
answer.
that's going well.
I don't know. I'm on that Old Spice crack. There we go.
It's Old Spice. Oh gosh.
Oh, I haven't even said my catchphrase today.
Have you said it? Have we come across any topic that would be?
No,
Nope.
nothing's been literally worse than Satan.
There we go.
Makes me very sad.
Trolls.
Troll. Yep.
Trolls are literally worse than Satan.
Done.
There we
All right,
go.
we can all go home,
Now we
sleep
can
in
wrap
peace.
up. Yeah.
Yep.
We
all
know
right.
what is worse than Satan now.
There we go. That'll work. The good kind of crack. God damn it, Tom.
Hey, good news. I just heard Towerfall Ascension is coming to Mac and Linux, in case you guys didn't know.
I did not.
Have you played that yet, dude?
Towerfall? No.
Oh, dude, give it a shot, man. It's on PC. It's on Steam. It's fun. You're going to enjoy it.
Okay. I will definitely. Actually, how much is it?
It's cheap, dude. Cheap. Cheapity cheap.
All right, then I will definitely give it a look. I will add it to the roster of other games I meant to take a look at. Mid boss.
Yeah.
Super Pixalo. Actually, if you wait to the 15th, I'm going to do a full unlocked build for any streamers who want to stream it early. The 15th is 5 days before it comes out on the 20th. It was originally going to come out on the 15th, but
Yeah, I was about to say because
we were. So I was emailing back and forth a whole bunch with Ouya, and they start the sales week, and they do a sales week every other week, and those games get the featured top of the store big banners. They're the first things you see when you turn on your Ouya.
Good.
And so, in order to fit with the sales schedule, I could either launch this Tuesday, and I was like, too fat. No, I have a lot more testing and bug fixing I need to do. Not really bug fixing, just making sure there are no bugs. And the 13th, the Duck game, which is a multiplayer, really fun-looking multiplayer, and they've been promoting that for like the past month, is coming out. And they're like, well, you're going to get buried, so don't do it on the week of the 13th, because everybody's just going to be promoting and talking about that. But if you come out on the 13th, when there's no other, I don't think there's any other scheduled like major new games on sale that week. Maybe some of the older games will go on sale. I'll get a nice little feature. So I want to take advantage of that as much as I can. So I'm doing that.
Oh, of course, go for it.
5 days isn't that bad. And plus, anybody who gets it that week is getting it for 40% off. It's already cheap price.
Okay, my dishwasher just kicked in, which is basically my cue to exit stage left. Or is it stage right? Can never tell.
Either one.
Stage center. Do it. Do a big grand finale right through the crowd.
Okay, on
that note.
Yeah,
Michelle.
Let's wrap it up here. You have been watching the Game Dev Podcast episode, whatever this one is, because we do them so often.
I think 5.
5. Let's go with it.
Sweet.
All right. Phil, how about you tell us where we can find you aside, if I missed anything in the little info slip?
You can find me on Little Tin Man. I talk about game stuff there. On Twitter, Little Tin Man is my handle. LittleTinMan.com is my website. I'm also on LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. You won't find me on Facebook. But, yeah, any of those places. Look me up. If you follow me, I'll probably follow you as long as you aren't a bot or, anything too weird.
What are you doing following us? But okay, all right. Anything else, or is that all?
I don't know what else to say there.
Okay, Eniko.
I'm at Annie-chan on Twitter. You can find links to all of my games and streaming and video making policy, which allows monetization, on kitsunegames.com. You can find Midboss at midboss.net. And if you're looking for the game that I made for Ludum Dare, that's kitsune.com/CGA.
Okay. As always, you can find me here at hitbox.tv/supervin47. Also, my Twitter's up there in the upper left-hand corner, as well as my YouTube, youtube.com/supervin47. Thank you guys so much for joining, and thank you so much to Eniko again for being a gracious co-host, and Phil for being a great guest.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was a blast.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you guys for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye.